2 years ago, I built one of the most powerful gaming PCs that money could buy, but I never truly maxed it out. Which is why right now, I'm about to do that with some of the most expensive PC parts. Right now, inside of my old PC, it has 64 gigabytes of RAM, an i9 13900K, and a 4090. But even though those are some really good specs, I know with some more upgrades, I could push this to be the craziest gaming PC I've ever had. Back in 2023, when I built this, it already cost around $4.3 thousand, and with these upgrades today, it's gonna be closer to 5.5, which is insane. Okay, so for the upgrades, I'm gonna add a whole second GPU. I'm gonna double the RAM from 64 gigabytes to 128 gigabytes, and I'm also gonna completely change the look. I think my old PC looked okay, like it still looks pretty good, but I've seen some videos of PCs using this new case that I got, and you guys will just have to watch to the end to see this. So it's from the brand Be Quiet. It's called the Lightbase 900FX, and it is massive. Like next to my other mini PC, it doesn't even seem right, but thankfully for me, it comes with a bunch of stuff to make building the PC a lot easier. Like you can see straight out of the box, it already came with 4 fans completely pre-installed and already wired, which will save me a bunch of time. But I do have to take a lot of my old parts from my other PC, so I was basically just unscrewing stuff out of that PC, and I had to start building this one from scratch with just the motherboard. Which the first thing is like one of the easiest things, it's just to put in the CPU, and I also added this thermal guard that really helps the 13900K stay cool, because this CPU can get really hot. The next easiest thing to do is just to switch out the RAM, which I'm actually just adding 2 more sticks of the same exact RAM because it's already really good. I think the RAM's called like the G-Skill Trident Z RAM, and it's 6400 megahertz, and each stick of this RAM is 32 gigabytes. So if I have 4 sticks, that's 128 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, which is so overkill. Bro, that looks crazy. Like I'll really just be recording videos and playing Fortnite and maybe some other games like the new Skate, so this is completely unnecessary, but that's kind of the whole point of this PC. It's just fun to build stuff overkill. My storage is actually the only part that's not complete overkill. I literally just have to unscrew this thermal guard, I place it in, put it down, this little tab goes over the front of it, and then I screw back in the thermal guard, and that's how easy putting in an SSD is. That's pretty much all I can do on the motherboard for now, so getting back to the case, I can start actually prepping it for the build, which means first, I gotta basically open it up. This is easily the most premium case I've ever built in, so like I said, it has a ton of features that just make it way easier to build in. Taking both of these glass front panels off is really easy. It's basically just 2 thumb screws each, and it completely opens the front of the PC. Like there's not even a metal corner support bar that I have to work around, so it completely opens the front of the PC, which makes it way easier to build in. Then the back panel also just has 2 screws holding it in, and this top cover only has 1 screw holding it down, so that comes off too. And the company that makes this case, Be Quiet, is actually the sponsor of this video, so they sent me this case, a ton of fans, the insane 1600 watt power supply I'm using later in this video, and the AIO water cooler that are all going in this build. And honestly, I'm not even going to try to sell you on their products, because if you know PCs, you know Be Quiet makes some of the highest quality products in the world. Their entire catalog of parts are German developed, their whole brand is based on being quiet, so their fans, AIOs, power supplies, cases, they're all engineered to be high quality and quiet, which makes them perfect for any type of PC build, from your crazy dual GPU gaming PCs down to even workstation PCs. I'll link all the parts I use down in the description, but in your next build or even your next upgrade, definitely check out Be Quiet parts. Now the last kind of easy piece of this build before things get a lot more complicated is just lining up and screwing in the motherboard. And I've been knowing I had this PC build coming up, and I was thinking about getting an electric screwdriver just to make it easier, and I definitely should have, because my hand is already getting tired of these screws. But I got the motherboard secured, and the mistake I made the last time I built a PC was waiting to plug in these 2 CPU header cables, because they ended up getting blocked last time after I installed the AIO. So last time I had to literally completely take apart my PC again after I just built it just to plug in these cables, so I'm not making that mistake again. So now for the first like kind of hard part about building a PC in my opinion, which is installing the AIO water cooler. Now the good thing is I've actually used this exact cooler before, and it's called the Be Quiet Light Loop, so I kind of already know how it works. In this case also has an AIO tray, which means I can just take this template out of the case and fully build the AIO on the floor, which is way easier than trying to screw it into the ceiling of the PC. You just got to make sure the fans are pointing in the right direction to make sure these will be exhaust exhaust fans, which basically just means they're shooting the hot air up and out of the PC. And honestly, this part of the build is just so tedious because each fan takes 4 screws, and at this point my hand is actually just tired. So when I lined up the fans, I made sure that all the wires would be facing the back of the PC, and now it just takes a few screws to secure the AIO template back into the case again. Now I just have to put on the thermal paste that comes with the cooler, making sure it'll cover everything, and just securing the head of the AIO cover over the CPU so there's like 0 chance my CPU will overheat. Because I don't think a lot of people actually know this, but after I built that $4,000 crazy gaming PC in 2023, I had crazy overheating issues. Whenever my PC was working hard, it just fully blue screen, and I had to deal with that for months. So after I got the contact plate and switched out my AIO on that old PC, literally since then my CPU has never overheated again. So I will always use the contact plate and a really good AIO. Now Be Quiet sent me literally so many fans for this build. Like, the case itself already comes with 4 fans installed. The AIO comes with 3 fans by itself, so I only actually need 3 more fans, and they sent me 18. Looks like I'll have a bunch of extra for more builds, so I'm not complaining, but they did give me a few different options which will all really change the look of this PC. So right now, the 3 front fans in the back exhaust fan that come already installed with the case are called their light wings, which are basically black fans with a circle of RGB lights around the edge. And then the 3 fans that come with the light loop AIO I installed are their light wings LX, where the actual fan blade is the RGB. This doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but these are the types of decisions that make a PC look way better. And there's another factor too, because the bottom fans actually need to be upside down. So these front fans that come pre-installed technically look like exhaust fans, but they're actually reverse bladed. So even though they're facing in, they're actually also pulling air in. But the back fan, even though it looks the exact same, it actually is a normal exhaust fan, and so are the top 3 AIO fans. So right now I have 4 exhaust fans and only 3 intake fans. So to be safe, I want to make all 3 of these bottom fans also intake fans. And if they're going to be upside down to be intake fans, then I think the whole fan blade actually being the RGB is going to look way better. A sore hand, and 12 more screws later, I did the same exact thing. I lined up the cables with the back of the case for cable management purposes, and now I have every single fan in this PC installed. But now this is definitely the worst part about building PCs, wiring everything together. This case does at least come with 2 fan controllers already built into the case, and the 4 fans are pre-wired into those controllers already, which does help a lot. So I still have to wire these 6 other fans, and each fan has 2 different cables on it, so 12 different cables have to find their spot. But actually with 2 different fan controllers, one mounted to the top of the case and one mounted to the bottom of the case, it actually makes it way easier. But now this is actually the worst part about building a PC, and this time I'm not lying. Figuring out where all the cables connect to on the motherboard has always just been so confusing to me. Like, you have to look at your exact motherboard's manual. You can't really look at any online tutorials because they'll have completely different ports. Plus, some of these can literally bend or break pins off if you connect them wrong, which makes it so much worse. Okay, yeah, that was about as bad as I thought it'd be. That took me over an hour just to connect the cables, and I'm still not even sure if I connected everything right. I guess we'll see when I turn this on, but this is looking more and more like a proper PC build with every step I do. So the only thing left before installing the GPUs is this power supply, which this thing looks crazy. I don't know if I've said it yet, but I'm using a 4090 and a 9070 XT in this build, plus the i9 13900K is power hungry too. So to properly power all of those, I needed an absolute unit for the power supply, and Be Quiet hooked it up with their Dark Power Pro 13, which is 1600 watts rated at 80 plus titanium. Like, it's literally ridiculous, and even the box makes it look like a high-end graphics card, and it's just the power supply. So this case has this power supply bay, which is the perfect size for this to just slide in and screw into the back of the case. And now I just have to run all the power cables, which I don't remember this part being that hard. I think it's actually kind of easy. Gotta plug in those CPU headers from earlier. Thankfully, I did that before installing the AIO this time. Then, to be completely honest, I'm not even positive what these PCIe cables do. I'm pretty sure they're coming from the fan controllers, and this is what will give power to the fan controllers. I hope so, at least. And now there's pretty much just one thing left to do: install the GPUs. The first one will be the 4090 I'm taking out of my old PC, and thankfully, even though these are by far the most expensive part of a PC, installing them them is actually so easy. Just basically have to unscrew these back cover plates, line up the GPU, push it down, and screw it in. It's actually kind of insane how easy it is. Now this alone is already an insane PC, but now let's add the 9070 XT as the second GPU, and I really hope this fits. No way, it's literally hanging just above the bottom fans, but I think that should be fine as long as it's not touching anything. And I think this is actually gonna work. Okay, this power cable is actually ridiculous though. Like, look how clean the 4090's power cable is, and that card is absolutely huge. But this card that's way smaller needs triple the amount of power cables. Like, that makes no sense. I got those cables managed about as best as I could, and I made sure they won't sag down to get in the way of the fan. That would not be good. And I think I'm actually done with this build. There are an absurd amount of cables in the back of the PC, but there's this little flap here, and it's kind of magic. Literally just closing this little flap takes the back of the PC from looking like a mess to now looking completely organized. I feel like I usually suck at cable management, but I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I did a pretty good job here. Obviously the case made it way easier for me, and the fact that the case is so big definitely makes it easier to manage the cables, but the back looks solid. I think the front looks really good. The only thing that looks not that good is the insane fat power cables coming out of the 9070. So let me put these covers back on. First, I just need to put this back mesh panel back on. And I actually almost forgot about this. This case is actually designed to be set up in two completely different ways. So it has feet on the bottom to obviously lift it off the surface it's on for airflow, but you can actually take these feet off and remove these covers on the side and put these feet on what's technically the back of the PC. And so if you set it up this way, it basically lays on its back, and the entire top of the PC is glass, and the RGB is still even designed to go all the way around. So this could be cool if I was going to like put the PC on the floor or something, but because I'm going to set it on a side table, it's way too big if I lay it like this. So personally, I'm just going to use it in the normal like vertical orientation. So let's flip the power switch on. And this is the moment of truth, bro. I'm actually terrified. Last check to make sure no wires are in any fans or anything crazy. And 3, 2, 1. Uh-oh. Okay, so I turned the PC on, the screen was just staying black and nothing was happening. I was absolutely terrified that I did something wrong, so I instantly started troubleshooting, and I completely forgot that this is an old motherboard that I had that was kind of broken, and not all the RAM slots actually work. I swear it makes no sense, but if I have RAM sticks in the second and fourth slot, my PC just doesn't work. So I had to remove those 2 RAM sticks, and then it started up perfectly fine, which is kind of annoying that I can't use my 128 gigabytes of RAM, but it actually shouldn't affect the performance basically at all, because that RAM was pretty much just for fun anyway. Okay, so the PC turned on, but that fan and the IO cooler are not showing RGB. And I just went ahead and troubleshooted that quick too, and I easily fixed the cooler because I just had it plugged into the wrong spot. And for the fan, I actually realized that I plugged that one single fan into the motherboard on accident instead of plugging in that fan to the fan controller. So the RGB actually does still work on it, but it's not synced up with the case and the rest of the fan. And to be honest, to change the fan, I'd have to completely remove the 9070 just to fix that, and I really don't feel like doing that. But once I sync all the RGB colors, it's really not even gonna be noticeable. So I just went through all the RGB apps and got my RAM RGB synced, my motherboard RGB synced, my 4090 RGB synced, and even the 9070 RGB synced. And this case does have a ton of different RGB effects and colors that you can cycle through just with this button straight on the case. And I did change the animation to sort of this chasing effect, which I think looks cool. And I'm actually going to leave this color the exact same because heading into the fall and Halloween, it just has like a cozy vibe to it, and I actually really like it. But now I need to actually test it. So right here, you can see I have my CPU, and then I have my first GPU, my GPU 1, which is the 4090, and then I have the GPU 2, which is the RX 9070 XT. So how this is supposed to work is I plugged in my monitor to the worst of the 2 GPUs, which is the 9070 XT, which is what I'm going to use as the dedicated GPU to display my actual graphics to my monitor and to run the lossless scaling program. And then to actually run my game, to run Fortnite, it's going to have the entire dedicated 4090 GPU for all the rendering. So now I'm in Fortnite in windowed mode, and now I need to actually go over and run the lossless scaling app. And so now I should be able to click scale. I click into my game application, and the program should be running. So let's go try it. Okay, I I talked like I knew what I was doing, but I actually have no clue what I'm doing here. Honestly, I kind of just wanted to see if I could get like over 1,000 FPS in game, like consistently. But I think frame generation and lossless scaling might just be to help like stabilize FPS, which obviously doesn't really help if I'm trying to hit like over 1,000 FPS. So right now, this is actually all just running off the 4090, and you can see just when I'm like free building in here, I'm consistently on well over 400 FPS, even dipping into the 500s, and this is also while I'm recording a video in OBS. Well, if I wanted 1,000 FPS, that is indeed well over 1,000 FPS right there. But the delay in overall performance on this PC does feel absolutely incredible. I definitely have some work to do to figure out how to best take advantage of these two insane GPUs in this one PC. But either way, this was a super fun build to even try. Once again, thanks a ton to Be Quiet for sponsoring this video. Definitely make sure to check out all their PC parts on your next upgrade or build. Consider watching another one of these videos that YouTube is recommending to you, and thanks so much for watching.